Hey everybody, welcome to the Anthony and Todd Show. We are a weekly podcast that critiques and memes music. I'm your host Trevor, aka Sleater-Kinney Bean, aka the Washington Bluefaces, and I'm joined by my ever-attentive co-host, my best friend, my pal, my amigo, my droog, Vincent.
Aka Red versus Blueface.
And this is episode 102 of the Anthony and Todd Show, an episode we would like to call Blueface Got His Name by Not Breathing Until He Got What He Wanted.
And he finally got his Xbox because he had a temper tantrum so much.
He got it taken away because he did bad in school.
Because he just repeated the same hook 40 times. Today we're going over the latest albums from King Gizzard and Lizard Wizard with Infest, the Rat's Nest, Sleater-Kinney with The Center Will Hold, Young Thug's So Much Fun. He has having too much fun because it's
Young Thug, get out of that
freaking long.
house.
And also Blueface's Dirt Bag. And today's intro song was called Trevor is Very Nice.
Thank you.
Just a quick social pledge. You can find the Anthony and Todd Show on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook at Anthony and Todd. You can subscribe to us at YouTube, youtube.com/The Anthony and Todd Show. And you can support us on Patreon, patreon.com/The Anthony and Todd Show. And if you want us to review an album of your choosing, you can do so by donating 25 buckaroos to our Patreon, and we'll review it. Whatever album you choose or please, we'll do it. Okay, are you ready to get into the Gizzard Wizard?
Yeah. Show
ready?
me the gizzard.
Show me the gizzard. Time to go over the latest King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard project. Infest, the Rat's Nest.
The Rast Nets.
The Rast.
The Rasta Nets.
Yes.
King Gizzard is an Australian psychedelic rock band that seems to be where all these psychedelic rock bands spawn from. It's fronted by, of course, Stu McKenzie on the vocals there. And they're known for their prolific output and leading the charge in this Australian neo-psychedelia scene. Of course, followed by Pond and Tame Impala, some of the biggest names out there. Just to go over some of the things that King Gizzard has done just in the last 3 years. Of course, they've done so much other stuff. They had Nonagon Infinity in 2016, an album that kept going on, and once you ended it, would go right back to the start. So it just played forever.
An internal loop.
You couldn't pause it ever. If you played it on Spotify, you had to uninstall it.
Yeah.
In 2017, they put out 5 albums: Flying Microtonal Banana, Murder of the Universe, Sketches of Brunswick East, Polygon Wonderland, and Gunboot Soup. Each of them having their own kind of gimmick, so to speak. And then, was it last year or earlier this year?
Earlier this year,
They put out Fishing for Fishies, which was kind of a funky,
getting into the terrain of blues rock, backroads rock.
And about 7 songs had the word boogie in it. And for this latest album, it's only about 34 minutes. They're trying on more of a metal and thrash metal kind of outfit here. So this is definitely a different scene for King Gizzard to try to dip their toes into.
I think it is, but it isn't that far off because you still have your really distorted, high-pitched guitars that kind of wail on the track, almost like a war cry. You have this very almost mechanical drum loops that are on this thing. Planet B, or no, is it Mars for the Rich, kind of has this aesthetic where I just went to Kings Island the other day, and it sounds like I was right first time Planet B. It sounds like it's like a roller coaster chain going up. Yeah. It just sounds like it's constantly escalating, which I thought was really cool. Whereas Organ Finder has this almost like machinery type percussion to it, or no, machine gun like percussion to it, where it's constantly firing at you, which I think is really cool. It isn't that far off from what they're doing. It's more growlier vocally, and I think that's probably the biggest difference. It's more comparative to Murder of the Universe without the weird spoken word bits that album contained. It's more cohesive. It's more attacking. It doesn't really let go. It loops pretty well. It also loops a little bit too well into itself. It feels like it's just a little bit too much at times. Yeah. But I think the thing that they succeed the most in is the lyrical content. I think the story across this entire deal, this dystopian / apocalyptic narrative, talking about how Earth becomes so polluted that there isn't no planet B, and there's dreams of people going to Mars, and there's other dreams of people finding a new home on Venus that leads to this whole entire trip that ends up to the main crew just going to hell is really confusing and weird and odd, and it's this nice apocalyptic narrative. And it's cohesive, where previous projects have had this weird mythology to it that you don't really understand, and it really is spread out across the couple projects, and I feel like the cohesiveness helps, and I think the lyricism helps, but I also feel like they spread their sound a bit too thin on this, and we don't get mix-ups, because King Gizzard can take it slow. They have taken it slow in the past. I just don't understand why they're not taking it slow on a few tracks to make it less hectic, because I know this is supposed to be a very apocalyptic album, but I also know this narrative would come through a lot better if there was a little bit more down moments.
Yeah, I would agree with that, and I would especially agree with I'm not all that into metal music, but I do have to say that one thing that I want to commend them on was the story on here. I think it was really cool, and also kind of plays into more of like a punk kind of element, because at the end of the day, the rich people are able to go to space and try to find a new home, but they end up just burning up in space and dying, and they go to hell, which I think has this kind of deeper layer of anti-capitalist like feelings. Also, the superbug is like ravaging Earth, and nobody can stop this horrible disease that's just kind of making its way through everybody, which I think is just brings this like dystopian idea even more to a head, which I really enjoyed the story on here. But yeah, I wish King Gizzard would slow it down a little bit. I think that what they're doing on here, I'm not sure I understood it the first time I listened to it, because I just flat out didn't like it when I first heard it. But I went back to it and decided to listen again, and I now have like a deeper appreciation, especially for the guitar work and the drum work on here. Just really incredible percussion. The speed and talent with which their drummer plays is just amazing. If there's one musical element I have to knock it on, Stu's vocals I think are just really lacking. Stu has never been like my favorite singer. I haven't really cared for his vocals in the past, but here I think it just is even more evident that like
there always been like weird gelatinous type vocals too. Just like frail.
I just can't say that I like care for this new growly kind of persona that he's going for on here.
I think it does lead to some fun moments, though. Like on the tagline of "There is no planet B" or "Organ farmer, organ farmer, organ farmer." There are some. It leads to a certain element of catchiness, which is, I think, able to stay through on a lot of these tracks. I think the moment where he gets the most gurgly sounds like he's just like has mouthwash and he's just trying to gargle it.
Yeah, I can't.
Is on Superbug.
I hate the vocals on Superbug.
Like they go on Superbug.
They go on for way too long, and the lyrics describing the Superbug are so like corny. It brings me out of the scene for just a minute. Superbug made of all the nasty stuff. Like, come on, guys, seriously.
It sounds like a lot of their previous other tracks where they get kind of like just like very cheesy in the way that they describe stuff. Like on Fishy This Fishies, it was kind of just like all over the place, and this is just like the pinnacle of it. It's just like they already have like a framework to work into, but they still find a way to just kind of like mess it up a little bit.
I think that their vocals, maybe not even vocals, like storytelling, I think works well into this, because they are very blunt when describing things. But God, Superbug is that's just awful, and he keeps repeating it over and over. It's like somebody asking, like, "Oh, what's this disease about?" And they're like, "Oh, it's just bad and stuff. It's probably kind of gross." And they just sing about it like it's the worst thing ever.
Yeah, I do like the repetition of or not repetition, but the interpolation of "There is no planet B" on Venusian 1. We're saying there's one planet V. I think that's a cool like little cliffhanger moving on to it. I like Self-Immolate about how these astronauts, I guess that's what you would call them.
Rich people.
The rich people move to Venus, and essentially they're lighting themselves on fire for political purposes, almost self-immolating themselves in this weird way. I like that kind of weird kind of metaphor that the track's going for. I think it works really well, and the fact that they can go to Venus, which is just essentially hell, or the physical hell. I'm not unsure which one it really is, whether it's just the surface of Venus that is hell, or whether it's an
I think they actually do go to hell because they are rich.
Yeah. And I like this album. I like the storyline to it. I like the sound. I like that it is only 34 minutes and there isn't a weird cliche that kind of puts it off for being too long. Because Murder of the Universe had the weird spoken word bits that really didn't fit over the cross of the thing, kind of ruined down the pace of the album. And that was way longer than this, or at least felt way longer than this. And it's shorter. It still feels a bit too long, and I wish it had some slower moments. But at the end of the day, I did enjoy this. I had fun with it. I think maybe some slower moments, a moment or two, because once you get to Self-Immolate, a track that I heard on its own, which I liked, it kind of comes off as a little bit less. And the lyricism is the thing that stands out the most, whereas the track really doesn't. Keep in mind those scores are futile and meaningless. Right now I'm feeling an 8- on it. I enjoyed it. I think it's an essential project, but I also feel like it has its own problems that work into the layout.
I'm going to give it a 7-.
And we infested the rat's nest. Now we need to go to the center of it, and it won't hold.
Just the rats.
Just the rats. Time to go over Sleater-Kinney's The Center Won't Hold.
Yay. Sleater-Kinney is an American rock band, now turned duo made up of Carrie Brownstein and Corin Tucker. And this is their last album to feature their drummer Janet Weiss, or Weiss. I was going to say Weiss. This is their follow-up to 2015's No Cities to Love, and this was entirely produced by St. Vincent.
Which is interesting. This album had me intrigued because St. Vincent's an artist I feel like 50-50 on. It's like sometimes she has a really passionate performance and sometimes she's really like toned down and nonchalant about a lot of stuff, and I feel like that comes through in both the production and the music. Some moments I feel like she's way more passionate, like her collaboration with David Byrne. Other projects I feel like she really doesn't, I think, project the best qualities of herself, like on her most recent studio album Mass Seduction. I feel like she just doesn't really portray the best qualities, and is more nonchalant about a lot of these topics.
I thought Janet left before this album.
No, she left after just recently.
I thought that was like the public leaving of her after, like I thought that the album had been recorded.
Yeah, it is.
After she had left. Okay, I see what you're saying. My bad.
Yeah.
The album's still up.
Oh. So this album, 36 minutes, 11 tracks. If I had to make a comparison to what this album reminds me of, it's the Karen O Danger Mouse project I heard recently. And I enjoyed that project. I don't think it's the greatest thing in the world, and I feel like anyone could have made that project, but I still think it was a fun little moment of indie rock. This I feel about the same. I think it has some interesting lyricism going into it, but also feels like anyone could have written it. So basically, the whole entire concept of what I get out of this album is a lot about self-image and this idea of losing yourself in a sense, and the fact that you're going to break down, the center of yourself is going to hold, and you need to find relationships outside yourself or things to keep you balanced and interested into your whole entire life. And this entire restless life you have is you need to find something to keep you in the center, keep you balanced. And I feel like it kind of leans into that idea a little bit too much, because I think tracks like Hurry On Home and Bad Dance kind of repeat the same ideas, reaching out for someone else and leaving a spot for someone else.
Oh, sure.
I think it kind of repeats that a little bit cliche, not cliche, but it repeats that idea a little bit too much. But I do like the cohesiveness of the narrative. I just feel like going over it, previous Sleater-Kinney projects had a little bit more bite to them. This doesn't really feel like it has as much bite. Like The Woods, their 2005, they're what was supposed to be their last studio album, had a lot more like raw vocals to it, had a lot more like grimier textures to it. This doesn't. It feels really polished, and that's kind of one of the things that puts me off on it. And I think it also feels polished kind of lyrically.
I think I support their decision to polish this a little more, because I've read a couple interviews about like this album, and especially like Janet leaving. Talking about like how essentially they were a new band recording this. Like they said that they felt like an entirely new group when recording this.
Yeah.
So they're kind of going for like a different sound.
Yeah.
And I think like if other groups can do this, then I think that they should also be able to do this.
I'm not saying they're not supposed to be able to do it.
Sure.
I think it's just a
like,
different
you enjoy
preference.
Something different.
I feel like it was more captivating when what they've done before because it had that bite to it. This it's almost too smooth, and I can think there's weird similarities on the Summer on One Hode. I like the opening track. I like the kind of mechanical industrial factory beat of metallic drums being hit. I think is really cool. Gives me a Bjork impression. Moments like Love, I like kind of like the Devo shades we're getting. I think it's fun, but moments like The Future Is Here, which just sounds like a St. Vincent track, is way too polished, way too clean, and the lyricism is really repetitive of what things have already been established. Moments like Love, while I do like the weird kind of fluid nature we're getting,
it's very like new wave inspired.
Yeah, new wave
really
inspired nature. I think the ideas of reflecting on your own almost their own come up, and they're kind of evolving in this nature of where they've come from, I think is a nice break from what we've gotten. Hurry On Home, I do like that track. It has like that kind of yelpy style vocals, which I really enjoy from Carrie Brownstein, and I think it works. I like the opening idea of leaving a spot open for someone else in hopes that it makes you a better person, or at least hopes it covers up a lot of your flaws, or the idea of that, or your self-deprecation.
Yeah.
I like the ideas. I think that's the track that established the best. It's the most catchy, with the hurry on home to me. That was Bjork. I'm sorry. That was completely wrong. That was not even close. Restless, trying to find something that will calm down your restless lights. So like there's things that support my idea of this like ongoing narrative that I enjoy it. I just feel like it could be, I enjoy the cohesiveness of it. I don't enjoy the idea of anyone could have written it. That's my main sport.
I understand that. Yeah. I personally did really enjoy this record. I liked the tracks that you were talking about. I also liked Reach Out and Can I Go On. These tracks remind me. Actually, I feel like as a whole, Sleater-Kinney is pulling from a lot of other like female artists. Back on like The Woods, I felt like they were doing kind of their own thing.
Yeah.
But now I feel like they are able to pull from other influences. I definitely see shades of somebody like Pat Benatar or Heart. I also see shades of somebody like Carly Rae Jepsen or the female rock group Joseph. I see a lot of shades of like different influencers here, and I find myself really enjoying that. They're not trying to. I feel like they're not trying to fit the mold that they had back in the day when their last studio album was back in 2005, and now they're still making music like 15 years later.
Yeah, they reformed in 2015, and now they're back again in a new way.
I've really enjoyed watching that transition, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like there are more good tracks on here that I really liked and that I felt like were well worth my time than not. I think this is just a really great moment for indie rock in 2019.
Yeah, I think the moments that the moments I enjoy the moments that are the best on here. I know that's the dumbest phrase I've ever said, but I think the moments that I enjoy are the moments where they go a little bit different of form. The Center Won't Hold, Hurry On Home, Can I Go On, Love. I think those are the moments that stand out the most to me, where it's kind of an untapped potential, not only for indie rock, but for them, which I think is really nice.
Yeah.
And keep in mind those scores if you tell me is right now I'm feeling like a 6 on this.
I think I'm going to give it like an 8 minus. I really
You think it's a Central
it.
Project?
For me personally, but I don't know what you would think.
Central Project doesn't matter. It's more of...
It's essential to me.
Okay, so it's an Essential Project. All right, that was so much fun. You know what else is so much fun?
Not this.
Time to go over the latest Young Thug
Get
album.
that grill fired up. Let's do this.
So much. Time to go over the latest Young Thug project. So much fun. This is so much fun.
Young Thug, aka Jeffrey Williams, who is aka a bus model, evidently.
Can you tell the story of that?
I was in Boston a couple of weeks ago, and I saw this tour bus drive by, and it was literally just like on the side was just a huge picture of Young Thug in his Jeffrey like dress, with like the same exact album cover but without the background, just on the side of the bus, and there's big letters that said "gender bending fashion."
It's just
yeah. It ended up being like a museum exhibit, but that's all it said.
I was really hoping it was just an old ad for Jeffrey.
I thought it was so funny. Anyway, Young Thug's an Atlanta MC known for his like really nasally mumble rap style.
The post Lil Wayne era mumble rap.
Also, he's pretty well known for his. He's got a pretty high range.
Yeah.
Honestly, when he gets into some of his higher range, that really sets him apart. Couple of the projects he's made back in 2016, he made Jeffrey, which we just talked about. It had some really good tracks like Pick Up the Phone and Wyclef Jean.
His most consistent, most fun project to date. Didn't try, I guess, ridiculously to put out so many tracks. Didn't have a ridiculous amount of features on it. Very consistent. Showed the best qualities of Young Thug, and it felt almost bite-sized.
Showed him in nature.
Yeah, and cool. Moments like Wyclef Jean and Pick Up the Phone really cemented him as why he's an artist that must be watched, and the hype behind him was really supported.
Mm-hmm. On the flip side, last year he released Slime Language with YSL Records,
which wasn't bad. It was pretty meh, but it also at the same time really showcased why Young Thug was good, and also why the people he surrounded him with were not good.
Yeah, like he's running with the wrong crowd.
Like artists like Gunna and I think his two sisters really did not have stable performances to really keep Young Thug in the spotlight.
In my eyes, I feel like Young Thug has two different personas. There's like album or solo project Young Thug, where he's like very generic, and then there's like feature Young Thug, where he makes some like really, really great features.
Like Good Times, like Jamie XX.
Yes. He was on I Know There's Gonna Be Good Times with Jamie XX. He was even on the Old Town Road remix with Mason Ramsey and Billy Ray Cyrus, and I thought that his feature on there was really fun as well. But apparently so much fun is his debut studio album, despite releasing full-length projects for like half a decade now.
Yeah.
And he wanted his debut to be big, evidently, and it's an hour and 2 minutes with 19 songs.
This is... it's not completely bad. That's the best thing.
I don't think all is lost on here at all.
Yeah, not all is lost, but there isn't anything that I think I would return back to like there is on Jeffrey. Mm-hmm. I think that's the biggest thing. There's some definite terrible moments. Submate with Future, where at the beginning, Young Thug is speaking in exclamation points. He's just going like he's so like under in the mix, or I don't understand really what's happening. It just sounds like the new era mumble rap, which is just like suffocating on a track.
Yeah.
Then Future comes in and he's his highest pitch to date. Take his King's Dead verse, amplify that times 20, and then you get some rusty sink sound effect where it just sounds like water's pouring out of a sink. That's literally, you get it's gargled noise. And I don't understand the track in the slightest. Also, there's a new version of Ecstasy on this album, which features Machine Gun Kelly. It just dropped today. Like, it was just updated today.
Okay.
And my version did not have... Like, I listened to it, and it said featuring Machine Gun Kelly. I listened to it. I don't know if Spotify was wrong, or if I downloaded this track, and it still says... like the normal version or whatever, but Machine Gun Kelly was not on that track.
I didn't. Okay, I saw the feature written on here and I was like, "What are you talking about?" He wasn't on there.
It was just updated this morning.
Okay, I did not listen to the new updated Machine Gun Kelly track,
so I was really confused on that part. But you get moments like Hot with Gunna, where it's like Young Thug's almost on the autopilot, where like it's okay, it kind of works. Like he's over brighter production, which really helps. I think that always compliments
I like the brassy production of Hot. I think it worked out well, and even Gunna, I think, fits this kind of production pretty well.
It doesn't hide all of his flaws, but it makes it a lot.
But it makes Gunna a lot more tolerable.
I think Surf
is one of my favorite tracks on here.
I think Surf also brings out the better quality of Gunna. Mm-hmm. I think also this weird thing, Light It Up. Pure Born is on a couple of these tracks on the album, like on production. It sounds like a Playboy Cardi beat, but Young Thug sounds like he's trying to do a Playboy Cardi hook, and it sounds weird. I don't like it. And then he has like his regular verse, so it's like, okay, it evens out in the end, but I'm just really confused on the style he's going for. He goes, light up, light up. I'm like, okay, Cardi light, chill down a little bit. You get moments like What's the Move with Little Uzi Vert. I think a fine pairing of styles. I like think
this one pretty well as well.
I don't think it really stands out and past this track, but I think the styles match up. It makes sense. I feel like they both are trying to do something. It seems like they're putting in some effort in the track. Same thing with the London with J. Cole and Travis Scott. I don't think it's an amazing track, but I think the styles somehow do match up in the weird way. I wasn't expecting Travis Scott and J. Cole to have at least as much chemistry as they did.
I'm really surprised that the London even made it on here because it's been out for a couple months. I think it came out at the beginning of the summer, and now it's on this album. I feel like that was such a long time to wait.
I think the London is a closer to a lot of these tracks that I think starting with like Big Tipper that begin to make a more cohesive album where it showcases the better, more consistent style of Young Thug.
Yeah.
I think Young Thug seems more energetic. There isn't as many flops, at least feature wise. I think artists like Lil Duke and Lil Keed kind of pair up with them. They're not the best, but then you also get artists like Quavo and Juice WRLD. Excluding Nav. Nav was so bad and he was so nerdy. I want to go back to his last studio album and like rate it lower if I can.
So that guy on Twitter can yell at us.
Yeah, because Nav is terrible. He sounds nerdy as all get out. He just sounds awkward. Does not fit Young Thug. He sounds like Logic appeared on the track.
It's pretty bad.
It's bad.
And I feel like that's such a shame because the production on this track lined up with Young Thug so well, and then Nav came in there like Steve Urkel.
Exactly.
Like, cool.
Mannequin Challenge, just the title alone with Juice WRLD, that has been relevant since Black Beatles in 2016. And I like that pairing of styles especially because I feel like Juice WRLD's emo rap style is very similar to Young Thug's nasally mumble rap style, and there's kind of like this what is it called? The two circles that intersect.
A Venn diagram.
A Venn diagram where they meet in the middle of in between the two styles. That really works out. But yeah, for the most part, you get moments like Jumped Out the Window, which are completely awkward. 21 Savage and Doughboy and I'm Scared really don't fit over the more energetic, I guess, fun beat. 21 Savage is a dark artist. I appreciate his verse, and he's way better than he was just about like 2 years ago. And he's improved a lot. And most of the features he has usually stands out to be the best features in this album, but I feel like he just doesn't really fit over that fun track. He's more of a dark, gloomier artist.
Yeah.
Over like some sticky, dark trap production is what he usually fits over. But for the most part, I feel like there's just so much on here that the best of Young Thug gets mixed in with the worst of Young Thug, so it just seems like Young Thug's constantly in the middle.
Yeah.
Just all constantly on autopilot throughout a lot of this. While I can praise a lot of the stuff, I feel like I've seen better Young Thug. I feel seeing Young Thug that has stuck with me more, has been way more passionate than he has, and has put out less but given me more.
Yeah.
In this, he's delivering so much. And while I feel like some tracks are okay, they work, they don't stick with me.
Yeah. I found it to be a really daunting chore to get through this album. It's something that I wanted to listen to, but after maybe like the first 7 track, I was like, I'm done. and there was still more than half of the way to go. I think just a real shame. I think Young Thug is obviously like at his best when he's in some of his like higher range.
Yeah.
I think that sets him apart when he gets more of these like high pitched vocals that he does, especially on tracks like Big Tipper. I think that's a really great example of that. I think when he picks good features to be with him, it works out well. Like you mentioned, like Uzi, I think works really well with him on here. He makes Gunna work better than Gunna typically works. I think Lil Duke is a really fun feature on here, especially on Cardi Gucci Scarf, where he's like, Lil Duke was basically like, you want to hear my best Louis Armstrong impression? And Young Thug was like, sure. And he's He's like giving some of the most raspy, like growly performances that he can, and it just sounds like they're just in the studio just messing around and just laughing their ass off at everything, which I think makes for a really fun track.
Yeah. Keep in mind those scores if you tell me any of this right now. I'm filling a 4. I think there's a lot more enjoyable performances on here than I think a more traditional 4 has, but I think it's a 4 because there's just so much on here.
I would have to agree with that. I think I would give this like a 4 minus to like a 4.
Yeah.
It just is too much.
Yeah.
It's too much mediocrity to really try to sift through and find like. And even if you find Young Thug's best moments, like it's gonna be maybe 30 seconds of a track.
Yeah.
Or a couple seconds here, or a verse here, or a hook here. Like it's gonna be really difficult to piece together cohesive moments where you're like, I like this track because it's more like I like a couple lines in this track because.
Yeah. Well, that was so much fun that my face turned blue. Are you ready to get into the latest Blueface album?
Worse. Yes.
Time to go over Blueface's latest EP. It's not an album. Blueface's EP, Dirtbag. I screwed that up for some reason.
Okay. Blueface is a double XL freshman from this past year, or this year, I mean, this past cycle or whatever. And he's known especially for his single Tatiana, his super offbeat flow, which gives me the impression that he does not know how to keep time. And he has a ridiculous kind of persona and style that he brings to everything that he does. And allow me to sum up this EP by saying probably half of the tracks are Tatiana reskins, and the other half are more original tracks.
But all the hooks on this album have the same hook.
Yes.
He has the same flow.
All the hooks and flows on this are essentially the same or similar enough that you can kind of see through the scrim a little bit.
Yeah.
But for me personally, I still enjoyed this.
I think there's
this
enjoyable
project.
moments on here. I think, weirdly enough, a lot of these features actually work.
Yes.
And complement him really well. And I think his verses, when he has a standalone verse, it kind of pairs out. But I think for a majority of this is so repetitive that it kind of becomes mindless. Similar to a little Pump effect. But I also feel like Pump actually was more... his problem was it wasn't super repetitive as it was kind of formulaic. It was like hook, verse, hook, verse. This is just hook, repeat the hook 20 times. Like on Dirtbag, where he just says, I'm a dirtbag. I drink out of paper bag or something like that. He just repeats that line like 30 times in the 2-minute time span. I feel like I hear that line like 15, 16 times.
Yeah, there's a very obvious formula to making each of these tracks, but I also think that each one is enjoyable enough.
His character shines through. I think that's the best part about it, is not the lyricism or the hooks on this thing, is that his character shines through, and he is this goofy, outlandish personality. He is the trap Quelle Chris.
Yes.
But unaware of what he's doing at any nature. Some better moments on here. Probably the best moment on here. Bussin' with Little Pump. The weird mesh of styles. I wouldn't think the very formulaic, super generic but super fun Little Pump would mesh this well. But their styles are very kind of similar in that weird nature of the fact that they're doing something new, but also unaware of what they're doing.
Yeah.
I think it actually works out, even though I do think Little Pump's verse is a little bit too short, and I think the track as a whole is a little bit too short and a little bit too repetitive.
Yes, I wish we got more of Lil Pump. I like the track Dirtbag, the opening track. It almost has a very like 90s hip hop inspired beat, which I think is fun. It almost gives it gives kind of the image that Blueface is starring in The Fresh Prince. That's like him, which I think is just a really fun moment. I like Disrespectful. Time to get disrespectful.
What's the line at the end of it? I have 2 penises, so I need to get... He says something. I need to get nutty? I don't think that's what he says. I think he says something.
Blueface is not the best lyricist.
He does say he is too.
But I still really enjoy like the stupid things he says. I like "Stop Capping" featuring the game.
Game brings some wholesomeness, or not wholesomeness, some compellingness.
This is the game's. The game's gone 2 for 2 here in the past couple of weeks. I enjoyed his verse on Trippy's latest album. I enjoyed it here. The hook on here, I think what makes this track so long is that the hook is really long. And for the first time I heard it, he was like, "Stop capping, stop popping. How can I slip when I'm the one doing the mopping?" And I was like, at first I was like, oh, that's actually really clever. And I heard it like 30 more times. So I was like, maybe it's a little too long. There's only one track that I just blatantly don't like on here, and it's "Gang" featuring Mozzie. I think it's really obnoxious.
Mozzie's okay, but the auto-tune on Blueface is terrific, or not terrific. It's terrible.
It's horrible. It's Blueface should not be using auto-tune. That's like the only reason I didn't like it. It just felt like it felt like trap fodder.
It was half-assed.
It felt really bad. But the rest of the tracks on here, even though a lot of them are, like I said, just like blatant Tatiana ripoffs, they use the same beat and they're like, all right, how can we make this not Tatiana? And they like mix it around a little bit and like take out some of the piano notes and are like, okay, we got something new. Daddy with Rich the Kid is literally Tatiana that missing a couple of notes.
Yeah, there's another track on here. I think it's maybe a little bit of buzzing. Or no, it may be Bleed It. It sounds like Black Boy JP. What's that one? Come Us. The one you did with Drake. What is it called?
Oh,
Look Alive.
Yeah, Look Alive.
Yeah, it sounds a little bit like that. Just probably because of the basic nature of it.
Yeah. I think my main takeaway from this project is that Blueface is shining through more than just Tatiana.
Yeah.
I was really relieved that I guess I was more so scared that he was going to be a one-hit wonder. A lot of XXL freshmen kind of end up that way. Like, look at Designer. He ended up just making Panda. And then, like, Timmy Turner, if you want to include that. But I was afraid that Blueface was going to be kind of a waste of personality and only release Tatiana, and then everybody's going to be like, all right, that's the end. It gives me hope to know that his latest EP, Blueface, is still making fun and funny music.
I think his character is compelling in this weird nature.
Yes.
I don't think a lot of the lyricism is good on this.
No, but it definitely makes for an entertaining listen.
I do think the features he's getting do kind of compliment him in a weird sense, especially Pump. And I feel like when he does, I feel like if he had better production, or if he tried harder on his hooks to at least do something more, anything else besides the Tatiana hook.
Yes.
Would be more interesting. About half the performances on this are good, half of them are bad, so keep in mind that I'll score futile meaningless right now. I'm feeling a 5.
What?
I think it's just half of the, pretty much all of this is the Tatiana hook.
I'm gonna give this like a solid 6.5 because I actually did enjoy it. Also, another thing that I think is funny: the game is essentially a legacy artist that is approving of Blueface and saying, "I like this guy enough that I would give him a feature to help him solidify his career."
Game's just a torchbearer at this point.
He's just a giver.
I think that's it. And then, if you want to keep up the Anthony and Todd Show, make sure you subscribe to us at youtube.com/the Anthony and Todd Show. If you want to follow us on social media, you can find us at Anthony and Todd, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. If you want to support us on Patreon, you can do so going to the link patreon.com/the Anthony and Todd Show. And I think that's it.
How do we make Blueface an essential project?
We don't. It's essentially, like, I think you should listen to it, but I don't think
if you give us $2 on Patreon, we'll make it an essential project.
$2? No, I'm $200.
$2.
I want that bank. Blueface is gonna have to pay to get on our essential list. I know you're watching, Blueface. But until next time, guys, I'm Vincent.
I'm Trevor.
And see you, boys.
Bye, everybody.